All right. Hey, good morning, folks. Once again, we are back taking a look at the tropics. Today is Thursday, August 1st, 2024. This is your morning update on Now Invest 97L, the tropical wave in the center of your screen on the satellite image, heading just north of Hispaniola this morning, moving off to the west-northwest. And Invest 97L has had some pretty significant forecast changes since the last time we talked and is now shaping up to be a potential significant threat for the southeast U.S. So we have a lot to cover this morning, so we're not going to waste any time, and we're going to get right into it with the latest update. National Hurricane Center, as of 8 a.m. on our newly tagged Invest 97L, has a 60% chance to develop still from the Hurricane Center in the next 7 days, but has been bumped up to 20% in the next 48 hours. So that window is getting a little closer. It still looks like the weekend more than the end of the week, but it appears by the weekend or early next week, we will have a tropical storm at least on our hands in the Gulf of Mexico. And you might be thinking, well, the Gulf of Mexico, Cody, yesterday you told me somewhat reliably that this is probably going to stay off to the east of Florida. Well, I did, but basically from the minute my head hit the pillow, because I'm sleeping for night shifts right now, all the forecast models like lurched off to the west. And I kind of made fun of the GFS solution where it went into the Gulf and spun up and went around, but as it turns out, that looks like it might actually be what's in play. The wave appears to be developing a little bit further south than early expectation, and the high pressure pushing this to the west appears to be a little bit stronger, and the trough trying to catch it from the Great Lakes appears to be a little weaker. All those things combined, and all the models kind of saw it at the same time, and they all kind of shifted over pretty dramatically. So my apologies for probably being a little too confident in yesterday's video. I'm thinking about how we talked yesterday, and I probably could have chose my words a little more carefully, and I didn't. So this is kind of the new reality, is that all the models have went from this solution yesterday morning, where at least some were still off the coast of Florida, to over here on Weather Nerds, you can see the European and GFS ensembles are now pretty much all uniformly pushing the storm into the eastern Gulf of Mexico, and that does significantly change the forecast and the forecast challenges that comes along with it. So let's go ahead and quickly run through what this looks like in the short term and then in the longer term. Let's break it down like that. So let's start right here, right now, Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening on our model. We are over here on Tropical Tidbits. I'm showing you the 850 millibar GFS model. Just as a reference, we have our wave that's just now moving off the coast of Haiti and is still moving off to the west-northwest. This will track across the Dominican Republic, Haiti, and Cuba and pop up somewhere near the Florida Keys going into Saturday afternoon. This is 18Z on Saturday afternoon Eastern time. You can see a broad area of circulation, possibly a tropical depression by this point, or at least, a strong wave axis that's getting ready to become a tropical depression near the Florida Keys. So in the short term, it's probably not going to be able to develop much before that because of the heavy land interaction with Cuba and Hispaniola. These are both mountainous, rugged islands that will even tear up well-developed hurricanes. So weaker storms like this are probably going to stumble trying to develop over all this land. However, as it gets away from the islands, the storm is going to find itself in a very favorable environment. And you can see quickly as we go into early Sunday morning, the GFS is already spinning this up into a tropical storm. So we think somewhere when it leaves Cuba until southwest Florida, this is probably going to go ahead and be named Dolly. I think that's the next name on the list because we had Beryl, and then I think we briefly had a Chris or something that came and went without much ado. So Dolly is the next name on the list. So we'll probably have Tropical Depression 4 or Tropical Storm Dolly on our hands by, if not Sunday morning, Saturday night. And from there, that's when things get much more messy because you're going to have two checks. First of all, is this actually in the eastern Gulf of Mexico? Is it more over land? Is it even further out toward the Gulf? That will matter a lot, but it appears it's going to be somewhere in this vicinity right here. That's where most of the models have it by Sunday morning. And then this is what happens. As the storm tries to continue to move northward, this trough over the Great Lakes and the Piedmont and the Appalachians pulling the storm northward on this model run goes away. The trough cuts off. The jet stream cuts this off, pulls the trough away, and then all of a sudden our storm is left trapped between a big high pressure over Texas and the plains and another big high pressure over the Atlantic basin. These highs both rotate clockwise, so this high pressure over Texas is pushing this down while this high pressure over the Atlantic is pushing this up. And the net result is that you pretty much have no steering flow because these highs are kind of going to be balanced out. And this big ridge kind of set in the middle there just kind of blocks the storm from really going anywhere or doing anything. The problem is that you're probably going to have at least a decently developed tropical storm, if not a hurricane, on your hands by this point, and now you're going to be stalling it dangerously close to land. Checkpoint 2 is going to be, where exactly does this stall and how strong is it? As it comes up into the eastern Gulf of Mexico, where does it actually want to park? How strong is it when it parks, and where does it drift from there? The GFS over the last 2 runs has shown 2 possible scenarios. The 0Z run, which you're looking at right now, brings us up to near Panama City and Tyndall Air Force Base, that kind of area. Not far from where Michael hit, honestly, and then almost backs up this. I'm not going backwards on the model. I'm going forwards. It backs it up, so it comes up, hits land, and then backs up into the Gulf, and then drifts off to the west, intensifies, and moves into the Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana, New Orleans area as a strong storm, and moves in from shore on Friday. So this, what I just showed you here, is the entire work week. So this is the entire work week. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That's 5 days where the storm basically just sits along the Gulf Coast and is just pushing water and wind and waves and surge and everything else ashore the whole time. But the 6Z run did something completely different. The GFS on the 6Z run brings this up into the Big Bend of Florida, drags it across northern Florida and southern Georgia, pinwheels it offshore back into Florida, this would be very bad for Jacksonville, by the way, and then drags it across northern Florida and then kind of like spins it down over land, but drags it all the way over to Biloxi and Alabama going into Monday of next week. So this run is 7 days. It's almost 8 days. So this is Sunday morning, and Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday morning. The storm is still a remnant dumping rain and whatnot over the region. So it just goes to show that there's a lot of potential here for a stall and some really heavy rainfall. The intensity models are picking up on the early intensity calls. The ship model's already going into Cat 2. I would be cautious with these because of the linear nature of this rise. I think that the models aren't showing land interaction well, so we'll wait and see on those. But rainfall totals are pretty crazy. I mean, 10 to 15 inches of rain potentially, but over this part of the model run, but there's obviously going to be 20 to 25 pockets, if not higher. We could be talking about, I hate to say it, but if it stalls near Florida, someone may be pushing the state record in Florida, which I think is like in the 40s. Over the course of a week with a stalled tropical storm or hurricane, very possible. But this largely depends on where it goes, and without any kind of steering flow, it's very difficult to determine where the storm might want to drift. Drift east, drift west, who knows? If the trough is a little late getting it leaves earlier than forecast, it'll probably drift west. If the trough holds on a little longer, it might tend to drift east, and then it might also just kind of sit in the middle. So when you see this big swath of heavy rainfall, this one looks particularly bad for Jacksonville because this is the run where it goes like this, but it just easily go like this, and then all this rain would shift back to this side. Basically, if you're on the eastern side of wherever this winds up, you're going to get a ton of rainfall, like a prolific amount of rainfall. So what I can tell you this morning is if you are anywhere along the coast from New Orleans to probably the South Carolina, North Carolina border, you need to be preparing for the potential of a hurricane some point between Sunday night and like the end of next week. If you are kind of inland, you should at least be expecting tropical storm conditions and the potential for heavy rain. And if this winds up being stronger than forecast and maybe comes in a little stronger, you're in like this part of Florida, you might be expecting some heavier wind. Or if it goes towards Panama City, this area can be expecting some hurricane force winds too. But there's a lot of potential for a high impact event. It just really is tough to say who, what, where, and when just yet. But this region here is basically what we're talking about for some pretty serious impacts from what looks like will be Dolly, assuming this gets going. Now, again, there's still outliers. Forecasts can still change. They changed yesterday. They could change today. I can go to sleep and wake up to something different. But it looks like we are a little bit more confident that this is going to go into the Gulf, and we're confident in a pretty high rainfall event. The rest of it remains to be seen. But bottom line is, if you don't have your hurricane plan or anywhere in the southeast, you probably need to go ahead and get that done very soon because you might be putting it into action at some point this week. Just who and when and where kind of remains to be seen. We will have all the updates. I've got one more night on the night shift, and then I'm switching back to a day shift on Friday. I am working a lot this weekend, but I will be available for updates. We'll have morning videos, and we will track this every step of the way from landfall and beyond. I know we got a lot of people in Jacksonville. Don't be super alarmed at that one model run. It was just one run. The other run painted y'all like a bunch of roses. So just let's wait and see what it does, and we're just going to follow it along with the updates, and we'll go from there. So that's what I got for you guys this morning, your morning update. As always, thanks for watching, and have a good one.